I'm going to begin by making a distinction between religion and spirituality. It's my distinction. It's a way of clarifying certain things. Religion's about belief, about faith. And as I've mentioned elsewhere, these are things which, although interesting, are of very limited value. For me, spirituality is about reality. Maybe that's a contradiction. People often think of spirituality as an escape from reality. Well, it depends what you mean by reality. Some people have got very limited ideas about reality, and in fact these limited ideas are somehow seen as the hallmark of reality. For example, a purely materialistic point of view is seen as being realistic. But materialism ignores our whole emotional side, the side of us which enjoys music and art, poetry, which feels love and despair. Where's the materialism in all that? So I'm talking about spirituality, but I'm really talking about reality. Spirituality is what goes after reality. It's the attitude which wants reality. And reality is far from obvious. If you look at what physicists get up to, they explore reality and they come up with the most weird and wonderful theories. They build huge machines, the particle accelerators, which are several kilometers long, smashing up subatomic particles, finding new subatomic particles, reality of black holes, which are so dense that even light can't escape from their gravitational field. So some people might call that reality, which is quite weird and wonderful. Some people would say, well, there's no such thing as solid matter because most matter's empty space because of the space between atoms, or the parts of atoms. An atom is mainly empty space, they'll say. So the point here is that maybe reality is not so obvious. And I think I would describe a spiritual attitude as one which is inquiring after what is real. And I suppose you could say it's spiritual in the sense that you're not pursuing, or your interest is more than just getting a roof over your head and all the rest of the immediate survival concerns. Now it seems to me the Indian religions are a bit more focused on that than the Middle Eastern religions. The Middle Eastern religions are what I've given us. The Middle Eastern religions include Judaism, Christianity and Islam. They're more about propagating sets of beliefs, faith in certain beliefs. And they'll say, well, that's what's true. But let's not bother too much about that. Within the Hindu and Buddhist traditions, although you've got a lot of religious elements, if you look deep, you'll find this concern with the nature of reality. And in fact, all the yoga practices of Hinduism, Buddhism are concerned with getting in touch with that reality. Yoga of body, yoga of the emotions, yoga of mind. And one of the texts, well, there's a particular Hindu text I'm going to be exploring. It's called the Yoga Vasishta, and here the title is translated as the Supreme Yoga. I'll zoom up on that a little bit. The Supreme Yoga. It's not just called the Supreme Yoga for nothing. It's not just a bit of hyperbole. What this book or scripture purports to do is turn the mind towards reality. Reality as it is, not as we'd like to believe it is. Now, it does this by telling stories, which is very interesting. So we don't have to get into any contorted bodily positions. We don't have to be getting into intensive meditation or worshipping any gods, any god or gods. It does it by telling stories, which is quite a fascinating notion. How would that work? I suppose you could think of a story as being a bit like music. Music has an effect on us. It can change our perception. And so can stories. A story isn't just about narrative or plot. It can be more like a poem. It can put our mind into a different way of looking at things. Perhaps an analogy might be the parables of Jesus. He didn't explain what the kingdom of heaven is. He told parables in order to give you a feel for it. I think perhaps the Yoga Vasishta does this. It does it par excellence. It's a very ancient text. As far as I know, it was written down about 1,000 years ago. But this isn't going to be a scholarly exposition. So if you're looking for a scholarly exposition, it's probably best to go elsewhere. And at this point I should say I'll probably get pronunciations wrong and all the rest of it, but my concern isn't really with good pronunciation. And again, if that's your concern, it might be best to go elsewhere. But let me just say a little bit about the introduction. The text was translated by a Swami Venkatesananda, and although he was obviously a scholar of considerable talent, his scholasticism does not in any way interfere with the spirit of this book. I'm going to just start off with a few comments from his introduction. First of all, about the scholarly side of things, he says, "Scholars speculate about the author of this monumental scripture and such other academic matters. May God bless them with success." The Yoga Vasishta is the greatest help to the spiritual awakening and the direct experience of the truth. This is certain. If this is what you want, you are welcome to Yoga Vasishta.